You are listening to the After the Timeout podcast, hosted by Todd Zazadil and Jon Pulicki, two high school coaches looking to help others spread their passion for the coaching profession. Tune in for more episodes for anything coaching related in-game, outside of the game, and anything in between.
All right, on today's show, we have a very special group for our very first round table. Today's guests, we have Terry Head, Matt Monroe, Ron Winemiller, Mike Winters, and Mike Reingruber. We are going to give a little bit of a boys basketball preview show as the season kicks off tomorrow. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. So Todd and I wanted to kind of start off with a kind of a hot topic. We've asked many of our guests, and that's obviously the shot clock in Illinois. So Coach Monroe, we are going to give you the first jump off to talking about the shot clock. And then gentlemen, feel free to jump on in.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having us on. We're really excited to be here and super pumped up for the season to start tomorrow. I appreciate you starting with me on the shot clock question because a couple summers ago, I served on a committee with Tyrone Slaughter and Mike Ellis and Pat Woods and a number of other guys trying to advocate for the shot clock coming to Illinois. And I really think it's time. A lot of other states have adopted the shot clock recently, and we're hoping that Illinois will follow. I mean, my reasons for really wanting a shot clock, I think it makes for a more exciting brand of basketball, and it could increase interest among fans and improve attendance at games. I also think it really helps with skill development for players, especially because they have to make quick decisions at the end of a shot clock. But I also think it really helps with creativity and coaching strategy. And it definitely makes for more exciting end of game situations. I hope we can kind of move away from the moments that many of us have been in where an opposing team maybe holds the ball for a minute and a half at the end of a quarter, end of a game. You know, and I know there's a lot of challenges with bringing the shot clock, but I believe there are also a lot of challenges with painting that 3-point line on the ground in the 80s as well. And I'm hoping that we could find some creative solutions to bring the shot clock to Illinois. We're hoping, at least in the next couple of years, our state will adopt it. At least that's how I feel about it.
Everybody else, what do you think? Coach Winters, what do you think?
You know, I agree with everything Matt said. I think it's time first and foremost. I don't think it's going to impact the game as much as a lot of people think. I don't think many of us hold the ball for 35 seconds anyways. So I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. I think where it does is strategy-wise, end of quarters, you know, deciding if you're going to go 2 for 1 here and there and things like that, I think is really where the impact is going to be on the game. So I think it'll help grow our players' basketball IQs just by going through those situations. And the other thing I think that Matt didn't mention is it prepares them more for playing at the next level. You know, if kids want to play at that next level, I think every place but here in the United States is better at that than we are. You know, they play that way in Europe. Because that's the way their professional leagues play. I don't know why we don't do a better job of lining ours up.
I'll chime in. When it first came to me about it, I talked to Rob Smith, and I was against it. And I voted against it when we had the overall vote because I just like to leave tradition, you know, basically where it's at sometime. I like to leave, and I was thinking that it's going to change high school basketball. But then after Rob and I had a conversation on the phone, and he explained to me that it'll help our kids. Then I'm also an advocate for going to college and preparing for college. And when you think of it from that standpoint, it will be beneficial for our kids, you know, to learn how to play the shot clock, be prepared. And also, like you just said, Coach Winters, that the kids have to get prepared and know how to score at that last minute with like a second left, 2 seconds left. But at first, initially I didn't want it, but now I did resubmit my vote, and I voted for it.
And to go off what Coach had mentioned, we sent a survey out. I think that's the one you're referring to. And it was interesting to see the results. It was something like 70% of head coaches in Illinois were in support of bringing the shot clock. But when you broke the game, or when you broke the vote down, you know, based on the boys' game and the girls' game, small school and bid school, it wasn't as overwhelming. Large school boys voted very overwhelmingly in favor of the shot clock. Maybe the smaller schools, it was about 50-50. And in the girls' game, it was about 60-40 in favor of the shot clock. So it was kind of interesting to see how it changed based on what level and what size of school and all other factors included.
Well, and onto that, so Coach Winemiller, what are your kind of thoughts from downstate?
Well, my big thing is, I think people think it's now we're all of a sudden we're going to play 85, 83 games if we have a shot clock. I don't think the scoring is going to really be that impacted like people believe. I still think if you're averaging 63 points, now you may average 67 or 68, but I don't think you're going to get this huge leap in scoring. I think down here, we deal with some things that you guys probably don't. I mean, now you got to find an extra person to run it. A lot of places down here have got to install it. So there's an additional cost that I think that makes some people hesitant toward it. But I think it's coming, and I think we need it. But I don't think it's going to greatly impact the game like a lot of people would lead you to believe when they start saying we're going to get a shot clock.
Well, and I think Reingruber, you host a lot of big exposure events for college. So I'm just curious from your vantage point, especially on the college aspect that Coach Monroe and Winters brought up. Kind of what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it helps. It's going to help prepare our kids and make them more prepared for the college level when they ultimately get there. It's going to be a big cost for our school if we're running 6 courts for all the summer events on all the courts, but we'll figure that part out. But I'm looking forward to it. I was on that committee with Matt and Tyrone and Pat and Mike Ellis and all those guys. I was in the initial part of that, and really excited to hopefully see that the shot clock come our way here in the near future, hopefully sooner than later. I think one thing that people don't talk about much is, you get some of these teams that really guard. I mean, I think of, Matt in the Catholic League, like DePaul Prep or Loyola, and they tend to have some lower scores, and it's not necessarily because they want to play slow. It's because they grind you out so hard defensively, where you're holding the ball for so long, where it's going to actually, help some of those teams, I believe, where you're going to end up taking crappier shots than you might want because you got to get it off in 30, 35 seconds. So I think from that aspect, there's a misconception that some of these teams that seem to play slow, it's more because they grind you out defensively, and I think it'll work out to their advantage.
Yeah, I totally agree. Before we go to the next question, I've always looked at it as the defensive end, right? I'm like, we can do a lot of cool things defensively and a lot of creative things defensively to throw off that offensive rhythm. Want to move into, we're heading into a full season here. And I think this is a very interesting question because we have coaches from different locations. But Coach Head, we want to start with you and just talk about going into this season and playing a full season, yet we still have some, COVID restrictions. And obviously the city's different than a different suburb district or down south or up north. So Coach Head, we want to kind of start with you and your kind of thoughts on playing this season and the COVID restrictions and just how we're going to flow here.
Okay. First, before I open up with my part, on this comment, I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to come on. I want to also always thank my wife for letting me coach basketball these years. My administration, man, for bringing me back into coaching, Mr. Anderson, my principal, my athletic director. And then I always like to tell people, man, as a head coach, we don't do it by ourselves. You got to have a good staff. And I also want to thank my coaching staff because, man, without them, we wouldn't have the success that we had. And that's your question about COVID and basketball. Last year, I'm gonna go from last year. Last year, man, I was really depressed about coaching. I'm not depressed, but I was sad because I just felt like, I was happy the kids were playing, but I would have just rather just let them just sit it out because it didn't mean anything, and I hate doing things that's meaningless. Now we to a point where we really can come out here and we back. You know what I mean? I'm so excited. Our kids are excited. The school is excited, and man, it's a good feeling. You know what I mean? I was really proud of our guys. Like in the summertime, that some tournaments would have us wear masks, and some didn't. But I was just happy that the kids can play because we really need them to be on the court and playing besides being in the streets. But man, this COVID thing, I'm really just happy that, in the city, they're allowing the kids to play. I think they're playing without masks. They got to do some kids have got vaccinated, and some kids have to just do a COVID test every week. But like I said, man, I'm excited, just to be able to play and have the kids play, and that's my take on it right now.
Coach Winemiller, what is kind of the situation down by you, and how's it going to look down there for going into this year?
Well, I really would like to see us have the kids on the floor not wear masks. I mean, if you want me to wear one, and you want the guys on the bench to wear one, I think that's one thing. But I don't think it's fair to ask these kids to play in a mask. That's been my stance all along, even last year. And let's be honest, how many kids are wearing it properly? It's a chin strap. So I went, not to pick on our volleyball, but you go supervise a volleyball game and no one's wearing it properly. So why continue with the charade? Just let them not wear it, and let's just move forward and kind of move on. I mean, I feel like everybody's kind of over it, so to speak, and the people that have been vaccinated are. So let's move forward and at least let the 5 kids and 10 kids and the 3 referees not have a mask on while they're playing.
Coach Winters?
I agree with everything Coach Winemiller just said. I mean, the mask it's not fair to the referees to have to enforce it either. I mean, it's just ridiculous for them to have to do that. I was at a playoff football game last night, and it was Harlem and Lake Forest, and it was a war. I mean, they were just beating each other up in each other's faces all night long. And at the end of the game, they couldn't shake hands because of COVID. I'm sitting there like, what are we doing? Like, these kids are in each other's faces playing football all night long, but they had to wave to each other across the field at the end of it. A few of the kids ran across and hugged kids and congratulated. I was happy to see that, but you use the word charade. I mean, that's exactly what it is right now. And it's not about being vaccinated, not being vaccinated. It's just, if we're going to play, let's not sit here and pretend these masks are doing anything other than just being a nuisance for everybody.
Coach Reingruber?
Agreed with everything Mike and Ron just said, and Terry. The mask thing, I think we probably agree with that. I mean, nobody's wearing it right. So what's the point? I'm just gonna be happy to have fans back in the stands and energy in the crowd. The band playing, all that kind of stuff that was just so weird. Playing without last year, it didn't seem right. But we're really looking forward to having a season where we can play in front of not only parents but student bodies and any other spectators that want to come. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Before we get to Coach Monroe, I totally agree. We were at Viator for our girls sectional volleyball game, and it was I kind of looked over at AD and I said I missed. It was a great atmosphere. We had a student section. It was packed. I missed that. That's part of when you're coaching too. It's part of the atmosphere. Coach Monroe.
Yeah, I'm happy that we could do jump balls again. Kind of going back to what Coach Winters said. Last year we couldn't do jump balls, but we could dive on a loose ball and closely guard someone. And it seems like outside of the mask, we are pretty close to normal in terms of at least the adjustments made to the game. But like all these guys said, I was putting together our schedule a couple of weeks ago, and it was just this feeling of gratitude came over me when I was looking, we get to play a Thanksgiving tournament again. We get to do our Meet the Wolf Pack event with everybody there. Like, all those things that we kind of took for granted a little bit before it was taken away from us are coming back, and hopefully things keep trending in the right direction so we can have as close to as normal of a season as possible.
I think that means Coach Monroe has a good jump ball play. I'm pretty sure.
Absolutely not. I was just tired of getting the huddle error every single time we uploaded a film.
No, it means he has a really good team. That's what that says. He got a really good ass team.
Well, I think Coach Head led us perfectly into the next question. And I kind of, because you're all in different conferences, different areas, I think this is a great question for all of you to kind of specifically talk about, dark horses or maybe teams that aren't spoken about, whether it's in your conference / your region, maybe teams that are usually very solid, but maybe don't get the pub that other teams get, or however you kind of want to take the quote unquote dark horse teams in your region. I'm going to start out with Coach Winters out west, and then we'll flow from there.
Oh man, our league is going to be as good as I think it's been in a long time. It's the depth is really impressive. Last year we played like a pseudo Nick 10 championship game just because we didn't have a regional. So it was us, Harlem, and East in that championship game. We have a lot returning. East graduated a lot of that team, but they've got 4 or 5 transfers in. So they reloaded. Auburn had a couple kids. I think what's weird is we had a lot of kids sit out because of football. So in our season, obviously being after football, being after basketball, we had a lot of kids in our league not play basketball because they were football first guys. So that's going to be it's going to have a big impact on a lot of teams. I think Hononegah was really young and really good last year. Belvedere North was pretty solid last year and really young. Boylan is Boylan. I mean, they're always going to be really good. Rockford Guilford's got a really good young nucleus. They had a couple of kids, a freshman and sophomore, that were special mention all conference kids that are back. So, man, our league is it's going to be a dogfight every night for us. And the worst part about our situation is probably different than you guys in the city area. And Ron, it might be more similar to yours down south, but we're going to see them all in our regional too. I mean, it's going to be our regional is basically a conference tournament for us because we're considered, even though we're an hour away from you guys in the Rockford area, we're considered downstate. So we get that localized regional versus true seeding. So we just beat up on each other. We could have 321 teams in the same regional in a lot of time. It happens a lot of years. So. It's kind of a gauntlet there for us. The good news is a lot of times once we get past that, whichever team gets past it, our sometimes our sectional or super sectional path is not quite as tough. But yeah, I think our league's going to be really, really solid from top to bottom this year.
So I think if we're going to go from one solid league to the other, Coach Monroe, you want to talk about the Chicago Catholic League?
Yeah, it's a battle every single night. I mean, we got 15 teams in our league, and every single one of them could beat you on a given night. And I think, one of the great things about our league is we have fantastic players and outstanding coaches, and you really have to be on your game every single day. And then looking at our non-conference schedule, we feel we got a good schedule plan that will challenge us early on. I think you look at our league, and Leo is a team that maybe hasn't gotten a lot of prep that I think is going to be really, really good. De La Salle is another one with Coach DeCesar coming in. And then certainly you got a number of others. You got the stalwarts like Loyola Academy and DePaul Prep and St. Rita and a lot of other programs. I know I'm missing a few that are certainly outstanding. So we feel like our league is going to be one of the top leagues in the area again. And hopefully we bring it every single night so we can take care of business. But man, hats off to the amazing coaches and players we got in the Catholic League.
It's really too bad that Coach Monroe doesn't have any solid teams in his conference to play against. Let's go over to Coach Reingruber in the largest conference on earth. Take us through the Metro.
So the Metro, we're obviously unique situation being on our division, being the only public school and with a bunch of smaller private schools for the most part. But I think our league is going to be pretty tough. I don't think it necessarily always gets the recognition it deserves. I think we have some really good teams with some really good players and great coaches. That'll be very solid. That return a lot from last year, previous years. I know, Timothy Christian with Ben Vanderwall. He'll be the best player in the league, and they are, they're going to be pretty good. And Aurora Christian returns, they 3 starters that were 3 players that were starters when they were sophomores on a team that went downstate are all back now as seniors, and St. Francis has a lot coming back. Wheaton Academy, I believe, has all 5 starters coming back. So, it's going to be tough from top to bottom. And, hopefully we're in the thick of things when things roll out at the end of the year. We have 6 guys that started, games for us last year throughout the season, and our 4 leading returning scorers. So I like where we're at, and can't wait to lace them up starting tomorrow. Locally, I would say, we're asking for other teams in our region and area, and obviously, like, we don't play in our league, isn't really our region here, but I think, some of the teams that traditionally get a lot of the pub, will be some of those same teams. But I think a kind of a dark horse team locally to look out for is Lions Township. I think they have a ton coming back, and saw them a bunch this summer, and I think they're going to be awfully good. They're led by a Division I point guard, and I think they're a team that's going to surprise some people throughout the year here locally.
All right, so let's take the longer bus trips now. Let's go down and hear about Benton High School, their region, their conference in the southern part.
Yeah, just in case people don't know, we're in a 12-team league in 2 divisions. So our division is Benton, Massac, Heron, Harrisburg, West Frankfort, and Murfreesboro, and then Nashville, Peeneyville, DuQuoin, Anna, Sparta, and Carterville on the other side. So it's a really good 2A league. Typically, if you can win our league, you're probably a favorite to be a sectional finalist, have a chance to play for the sectional. Traditionally, 3 of those teams make up at least 3/4 of the sectional every year. I really like, Nashville has a new coach. Brad Weathers' son, Patrick Weathers, is going to be the coach there. I really like the guys they bring back. They got a bunch of guys back from a team that got upset in the sectional final 2 years ago. Of course, Coach Wagner does a great job at Peeneyville. They'll be in the mix when it comes out. And then on our side, we got 3. I think our side's as good as it's been in a long time, because you've got a lot of guys there who bring back a lot of people. And that's what we go to I'm just like you guys, we go to a Thanksgiving tournament and we see people that I haven't seen in 2 years. I mean, I got to dig out the JV rosters from 2 years ago to try and figure out who guys got. So our league's really good. And you have Joe Hossman, who's won more games than Naismith, I think. And Daryl Murphy's won over 500 games. Randy Smith-Peters at Harrisburg's won over 500 games. So it's a battle every night in our league. But if you had to pin me down to a favorite in the South, I'm gonna put it on the Nashville Hornets right now.
Well, and Coach, I was doing some research earlier today. Did I see that Massac County High School is about 60 miles from you in the same conference?
We are. They're actually about 5 miles from Paducah. So they're just right across the border. Yeah, they're about 60 miles from us. Actually, we've got this year and next year, and then we're going to the other side with Nashville and Peeneyville. So our conference is kind of relocating. It's going to do some good things for us travel-wise. But, yeah, we got about a 60-mile bus trip, but that's not too bad in this part of the state. So don't have to worry about anything like construction or anything like that, like you guys do.
Well, I can't say, as we move on to Coach Head to finish off the city, I can't say, Coach Head, that you have any 60-mile bus rides, but the 6 miles might take 60 minutes.
I'm going to tell you right now, it takes me 60 miles because I take my time trying to get to these gyms with the teams that we have to play in the conference. It's no easy game. I mean, we're the weakest team in our conference. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about, because, in the city, you don't want to drop. And I don't want to be a one-hit wonder. You can't count the COVID season. We just moved up. And I'm going to tell you, man, Chicago went Chicago, Red, Northwest, where you have Orr, Marshall, North Lawndale, Lane, Clark, Schurz, Lincoln Park, Farragut, Whitney Young. Damn. Man. It's no break. That's one thing I love about the public league. And it's different being on the north side public league than being on the west side. On the north side, you could take that break, or not a break, but if we playing Von Steuben, when I was up north and Von is real good, we might have say Tav and Von Steuben. Tav Wednesday, Von Steuben on Friday. I could prepare everything for Von and just use Tav as, maybe the practice game, But you can't do that on the west side. You can't do that on the west side because, man, you're going to have to go to Marshall at Marshall. And them kids, man, they play, there's some piranhas in there. They play so hard in that gym. Then you got Farragut over there. I mean, you understand, man. It's like, and all the kids know each other. They know each other very well because they play ball, and they play AAU basketball against each other. And they jaw jacking and they playing real hard. But, Chicago Red West, man, I always say it's the best conference in in the state, man, I always argue that you got Aau High School, or it's 5 minutes away from us. I literally take an hour and a half to get there because I take my time. I tell the bus driver to go all the way around, go another way, because I'm still happy. I'm not sweating. I'm not all nervous and everything. When you get in the gym, you know, you got your towel, you sweating, you working hard. It's just tough games, man. Our conference is loaded, man. You know, or you know, I told Lou this himself. I said, Lou, I don't count. Like you can't scout Lou in November at Thanksgiving time because you're probably gonna have a whole nother team come time you get ready to play them because all the transfers gonna be eligible. March, we're gonna play hard. Hey, now I'm gonna tell you, if you're going to play Lane, prepare to go up there, and it's gonna be they're gonna have a band. You know, that school is huge, so they got a huge band. They got a whiteout day. I already know what Nick gonna do. So it's just, man, there's no easy. Whitney Young, I ain't gotta say nothing. Shit, Whitney Young. Going to Michelle Clark playing Whitney Young. I'm just like, damn, I'm happy to even say be on and looking at sometime on online. It's like Michelle Clark versus Whitney Young. Damn, when did Clark start playing Young? So we got our hands full this season. But one thing I love about it, man, my kids are up for it, and we up for it. We ready to go. We ready to go.
So I wanted to move into how the game has grown and where we need to go with the game. I'm going to start with Coach Reingruber, but so two-part question here. The greatest area the game has grown in the last 10 years, and then the greatest need of growth where we have to get here. We'll just use the next 10 years.
Yeah, I think, I think a lot of the game is the same, but I think there are some areas that have certainly grown. I think, in some ways it's become a more skilled game. Obviously you see, your 4s and 5s that used to maybe not be quite as skilled on the perimeter have become more skilled, and, with spacing the floor and being able to shoot it and handle it a little bit more. I don't know if that's a direct correlation to them, all these kids now working with their different skill trainers and things like that we really didn't see 10 years ago. But it's been a way kind of we've played for a while. We traditionally don't have a 6'7", 6'8" post, so we've always kind of spread the floor and had skilled guys playing some of our inside positions. But I think that's one of the biggest ways the game has grown in the last 10 years from a skill development standpoint, from that standpoint. I think one of the areas I don't know if it's a concern, but I think that needs to grow is, I've known Matt forever. I've known Terry forever. We kind of came up together in a sense where we've got a lot of these young coaches that are, going to clinics and just doing lots of things to develop, help themselves develop the game. And I don't know that I see that much from the guys maybe just below us. So I think that's definitely an area that needs to grow is that generation kind of behind us that's just starting here that I think definitely needs to jump in on the coaching development train. So,
Coach, they got YouTube. That's their problem. You're looking at YouTube.
Yep.
Coach Winemiller.
Sorry, technologically challenged. The one big thing I see is kids, at least down here, kids don't play as much anymore. If it's not facilitated by a coach or, Mike talked about the skill trainer and stuff. We have a ton of that with baseball where everybody's playing 85 baseball games in the summer and playing fall leagues and summer and spring. And it just seems like basketball is the winner, and guys don't play when you don't get them in the gym. And so that's one thing that concerns me a little bit. I think, I remember you get with your buddies and have a 3-on-3 tournament when I was a kid. You don't see guys doing that anymore. The thing that I think that we could do a better job of is I just really, really worry about just like what Mike said, the longevity of guys. You don't see the guy who goes and stays at the little high school for 30 years anymore. Seems like parents have gotten a little more control, maybe is lack of a better term, or social media or whatever it is. But You see that guy who jumps to being a principal a lot faster than he used to. And it doesn't seem like guys want to do this for as many years as what they used to in the past.
I do want to hit on this, and I'm going to turn it over to Matt, because Matt and I were at the IBCA Hall of Fame meeting, and Matt, you actually said that when they were talking about some things about just our generation maybe not coaching as long, as others, and I thought you spoke very well on it. So as we turn into that, I just wanted to bring that up because I thought you spoke so well on that topic that Ron brings up about, maybe coaches not coaching as long as they used to.
Yeah, we did a survey. So Ron and I are, and Mike and a lot of others, I mean, everyone here at really is very involved with the IBCA, but Ron and I are also involved with the National High School Coaches Association. And that's a big topic that comes up every year. It's not just an Illinois issue, it's a whole country issue. And I think when you look at it, probably about 10, 15 years ago, the average life cycle of a coach at a school was something around 7 to 10 years. And in some cases, 30 years, you'd be at the same place your entire career. Nowadays, they did a recent survey and that life cycle is about 3 to 5 years. So almost half, a little bit less than half actually. And we've talked about a lot of reasons why that is. Why is there a lack of longevity? Certainly, all the pressures that entail coaching from parents, from people that just, are questioning you all the time and not necessarily supporting you, to that instant gratification culture that everybody wants to subscribe to so much. But I think it's much more nuanced than just those pressures. I also think it's in the preparation. So kind of going along to what Coach Reingruber said, I think sometimes a lot of guys like us growing up, we coached every team we could. We have mentors that really looked out for us. We go to clinics all over the place. We're always researching the game. And we also paid our dues being assistants for a long time before becoming head coaches. So I think sometimes in the preparation, either guys get jobs too quickly, guys don't kind of go through all the steps that maybe some older generations did. And then also the lack of mentors for younger coaches. I've been very blessed. I probably could name about 7 or 8 guys right now that have served as mentors to me. And they're people that are invested in me, but aren't there with me at practice every single day. So they can kind of take a little bit of an outside perspective when I bring issues or questions, or I just need feedback from. And some of those things have been invaluable. So we're looking at, from a coaches organization, trying to find ways where we can help coaches not just excel at their jobs, but to excel at them for a longer period of time. We're working on a program called Coach Assist, and we're trying to do a lot of other things to advocate for coaches, but also to give them the tools they need to stick with those jobs long term. And so hopefully that's something that we can see, a change in this game in the future, because I think, those coaches that Coach Ryan Winemiller mentioned in his conference, the guys that, have 500 wins and have been at their school forever, that's a really special thing. It doesn't just bode well for the school to have that consistency, but it connects generations of people within a community. And it's something that hopefully we can preserve and have more and more people have that longevity in the future.
I'm going to jump to the Coach Winters, because Coach Winters in our podcast, when we talked to you, we talked about this same kind of thing a little bit. So I wanted to jump in with you and have you talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, that was, what Matt just said about having mentors and things like that. That was the whole motivation for me for writing the book, The Journey, just to be able to educate coaches about some of them. A lot of them just don't know what they're getting in for these days. I think it's tougher because, when we were younger coming up, AAU was there, but it was more for the elite player, and now it's for everybody, and everybody's got money invested. So emotionally, people are tied to their money. So these parents they've got this money invested in their kids. And now they expect that, you said that instant gratification. They've got these demands where it's not just a game anymore; it's an investment, and that's putting a lot of pressure on young coaches. And I think that's that's a really big part of it. As far as getting back to the original question, where the game has grown in the last 10 years, I think 10 years ago, if we had a shooter, I think shooting was just really bad 10 years ago. And now all of a sudden it's trendy. It's in to shoot threes and be a good shooter and develop. And I think shooting machines have helped. I know from a coaching standpoint, I have kids that come in way more skilled in some areas and really lacking in other areas. And I think that's kind of a byproduct of all the trainers and high level training stuff. They're wanting to be able to put clips on social media of these kids doing these high level things, and that's just kind of what they jump to. And sometimes they skip over some basic fundamentals. So I think my job is to fill in the holes now, fill in the gaps a little bit. And it makes sense. I get why they do it. They want parents looking and saying, "Oh man, I want my kid doing that." But then you get a kid that struggles with just basic footwork as a freshman on a left-handed layup and things. So it's not better or worse. It's just different for me. I just have to be more observant of where the holes are and fill them in. Where I used to be able to assume that if a kid got to me at the varsity level, they had, these skills and things like that. And they don't always at this point. They have some really high-level stuff that they are capable of doing.
Coach Ed?
Hey, I want to touch on two things that I heard you guys say, like how the game has grown. Man, the game, I just think everybody's playing basketball right now. And like you said, like Mike said, everybody's playing basketball. And then you got all these trainers. This how the game is bad. You got a million trainers and nobody's teaching basic triple threat, right hand layup, just fundamentals. The kids come in, they don't have any knowledge of basketball, but they can do a Euro step. They can do a behind the back whirl spin between the legs, reverse layup, finger roll. But if you ask them to make a regular layup or a jump stop, they don't know how to do it. But I think we can change that with the older guys. I really believe in just, sticking to tradition, sticking to what we know, teaching what we know and teaching it to our kids. And then they'll, I always say you got to do one kid at a time, and then you'll spread up. You look up, you got 20, 25 kids that can do what you teach. Real quick, I want to touch on this too. The game, I think the game, how we get the game to change, I think we need to change the rules on some of the things that the state is doing. I think the state has like an overall blanket over basketball or other sports. I know for myself, for Michelle Clark, it's important for my kids to play basketball because that's what they love. And I tell everybody, if they love tennis, if they would have loved swimming, if they would love hockey, that's what I would be coaching. But in the city, it's basketball. Mike, I'm gonna touch on something. The reason why our kids not playing basketball in the city, they're gonna get shot and killed. So I literally need to have my kids in the gym. It's very important for my kids on the west side of Chicago to be in my gym because I know they're safe. I know they're gonna be okay. My wife literally will go. She knows season starting up. She know basketball practice about to start. She didn't do it this week, but I know next week she's gonna say, "Okay, babe, what do the kids need?" Because we don't let them go to the corner store to get stuff. We buy Gatorade, water, chips, and all that stuff. So once they get to school in the building, we keep them there. They eat lunch there, they eat dinner there. We have snacks, we practice, and we send them home. But this is my thing, man. We get 25 contact days. That's not enough. It's different downstate, man. I mean, literally, if I don't know if you follow me, we had a young lady get shot and killed just 2 weeks to a month ago. That was our second kid getting shot at Michelle Clark. During the COVID, man, one of my best players, Darius Perriman, his dad got shot and killed. His brother got shot and killed 10 days later. Then his grandfather got shot and killed. That kid traumatized. So what's their safe place? What's their safe haven? Man, I know Coach Head gonna have us in the gym. And that's what I want to be. I wish we could come up, Ron, I think it's different downstate than it is in Chicago. And I just think that's how we could help the game change. We need to make things accessible for kids. We all coaching kids and work for kids, but Mike, it, man. We're not that far from here in Riverside. I really feel like, man, I want to run my program like a community center where I know my kids going to be in the gym every day. And I'm at the school every day, and they're in the gym every day. And we in there till 8 o'clock at night. I know one thing, my kids in the gym with me, man, they're not getting shot and killed. They're not selling no drugs. They're not doing no drugs and none of that. Getting girls pregnant. See, that's what we got to deal with. We got to deal with everything in the city. And you got to make sure we got to deal with all that. And then you still got to coach your kids, make sure they have discipline. And we got to make sure they get educated and get them in college. And then hell, even when they're in college, we still got to, hey, did you get your FAFSA done? Did you call Miss Head and ask her to make sure your FAFSA was done for the following year? That's the thing. I think it's two different worlds in basketball. I don't think people understand what we deal with in the city. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what y'all deal with downstate. But I think we need to cross-reference and get on the same page so we all could be doing the same thing for the kids.
You know, I've had a chance to talk to Coach Ed. I've talked to, you know, since the book has come out, I've done some podcasts with people in California. I went down to Georgia for a speaking engagement, and I'm amazed at how many states I've come across that don't have those restrictions. They don't, you know, I ask them how many contact days you get in the off season, and they laugh. It's just wide open for them to do what they need to do. Now, each school can choose to regulate it, but that would be something that, you know, for your situation, obviously you could have the kids in the gym more, and it would just make a lot of sense for you guys.
We you know, I don't want to go, I don't want to say publicly what happened to me this year with coaching my guys, but I made sure I kept my record of my contact days. You know what I mean? Because I want to make sure I'm always following the rules. But sometimes I really want to say, damn the rules. They not made for us. You know what I mean? It's more important. And you understand? I got two brothers on my team. We got done playing at the end of July. Our last term. That following week, we didn't have nothing to do. You know, and the dad was like, "Hey, coach, where the guys going? What they doing? Man, can you please get these guys back in the gym? They hanging out." He said, "Man, they sneaking out the house. I can't smack them upside their head. They 6'4", 6'5", 250. I'm their father, you know." So I'm like, damn, T, if we'd have had our guys working out, you know what I mean? If we'd have had our guys working out, they're gonna be too tired, they're gonna hang out. And that's the thing that we dealing with. And I'm trying to figure it out. I always say, I wish I was a millionaire. I wish I had, man, $1 gazillion and just, man, build a home or a house for kids where I know they having issues, or we can keep them safe, man, where we can keep them with us. You know, I'm gonna be honest with you, man, half the time, some of the parents don't even want their kids at home. And we dealing with that. This is no lie. I'm dealing with that right now in my program, where I have to call kids on the Sunday. Hey, man, did you eat? Are you okay? Make sure you have your butt at school on time, because we have breakfast in the morning. You know, my wife, man, she does a lot. She'll buy. We're literally, you know, I got 2 refrigerators in my office. We got with cereal, milk, and fruit. Then at school, we got water and get. I mean, we got to have that because, man, half our kids be hungry. And you would think, man, in 2000 and in this time, it'll change, but it's worse. It's literally worse. You know, so that's why I think we need to have a different change, a different mindset. I think that the state needs to understand what go on downstate don't go on in the city, and then we need to understand what go on in the city, not going down, what's not going on downstate. And I bet you if I had 5 more public school coaches on the line, they'll tell you the same thing. You know, that's what I don't think the rules, the contacts, you know, I think they need to let these kids, man, do what they love to do. If this kid if playing basketball or playing football, or playing baseball is going to save their life, let the coaches that want to do it, do it.
I think
without penalty.
Before we move on, Coach Head, Todd goes on to the next topic, you know, I think Todd and I can both speak from that. You know, Todd works in Bellwood and I work in Maywood and Melrose Park, but then we both coach at a Catholic school. So I think just in our everyday lives, Todd and I see the dichotomy of I go from Maywood to Resurrection, and it's completely different atmosphere. It's completely different worlds.
Two different worlds.
I go from free breakfast and free lunch just so they can get fed to coaching basketball. So I think that was well said. And I just wanted to reference that before Todd moved on there.
Yeah, and I totally agree too. No matter where you are, your kids have different needs, and we all have to help to try to meet the needs of our kids, no matter where we are. No matter every place is different, every situation is different. So I want to.
I'm sorry, Coach. I'm gonna add this.
Go ahead, Coach. Go ahead.
What we're doing right now, I don't know if Mike does it or you guys. I'm pretty sure Matt do it. You know, I'm not sure, but I'm trying to have my parents help me. I got like 5 parents for like 30 kids that actually just gonna support. Not they trying. The parents is working. You know, they busy. We trying to come up with the. You know, I always see like the suburban teams or the Catholic school teams, I know their guys don't go home. Like when I was at Weber, I played for Johnny Bunk. We would have the parents come in and they'll have food, like a little snack and everything, and the kid. Because I know one thing, I don't want my kids. My biggest fear is like we have we get out of school on Fridays. We got a half a day. We got at 2:00, and then we don't play until 6:30, and you got to make up that whole 4 or 5 hours. You know what I mean? And I'm like, no, you can't go home. I don't want you to go home. I want you to walk to the store. So we have to have food, food and stuff for them to do, just to keep them busy, keep them occupied. So that's what I'm learning to do, even at this stage. And the years I've been coaching basketball, still trying to be creative and make sure our kids get what they need.
So I think that kind of leads us into the next question. We're going to start with Coach Winemiller. Your message to the team as you begin the season, it could be basketball wise, but I think a lot of us even more talk about non-basketball wise. What are you guys going into the season trying to get across to your team? It could be either way, basketball or non-basketball.
Well, we're talking about a lot of non-basketball stuff right now because we won our football game yesterday, and 11 of my 15 guys are still playing football. So we're a little shorthanded here. And I think we had a parents meeting today with our team, and I told them, I said, those are my guys, whether they're playing football or baseball or tiddlywinks, it doesn't matter. I want to see them be successful, and whenever they get done playing, we'll have them. So the big things with our guys is, we're a school of about 550 kids. We're a public school. Our golf team got second in the state this year in the fall. Cross country team got sixth yesterday. Our football team's playing in the quarterfinals this week. So our big thing is just going to be continue to build on the success from the fall, because it's all the same kids. We don't have many one sport guys at Benton, and we like it that way, because just what Coach Head was talking about, everybody's got their issues they have to deal with, but our guys are taking care of it by just playing multiple sports and keeping themselves occupied. So our big thing is going to be just kind of continue on what we've already started.
Let's jump over to Coach Monroe.
Yeah, I think there's a few messages that, we're trying to promote going into the season. We feel like we got a really nice opportunity ahead of us this year. We've spent a lot of time building our program up, and we feel like we can really capitalize on it this year like we've been able to the last couple of years. So the first thing that we're really going to talk about is, even if we get off to a strong start or, start really well, I think one of the main things we got to keep in mind is we can never adopt the mindset that we've arrived. We always got to feel that we need to continue to evolve and get better. We got to keep working. We got to stay hungry. And I think if we think that we've arrived, that's when our team maybe underperforms. So, making sure that we stay motivated, even if we start the season off really strong. I think the second thing that's really important for us is to love it all. We didn't get to have a real season last year. And I think we need to make sure that we never forget how lucky we are to be able to do this again, to be able to have a full season. So we need to love it all. We need to love the great experiences, the highs. We need to make sure that we also love the tough moments too, because those are all moments that we get to share together that we didn't necessarily have last year. And at the end of the day, I think the third thing that we're going to continuously emphasize is making sure that everyone's a star in their role and they do everything they can to help the team. At the end of the day, certainly playing time, roles and press, that's all important to guys. They're kids. We can't ignore the fact that, that certainly does mean something to them. But the memories that they gain and the experiences that they share and the lessons that they learn from the season far outweigh any of those other things. In 20 years, they're going to remember most the connections they made with their friends, those relationships they developed, and also the incredible memories that they had to get out of the season. So just kind of keeping the big picture in mind, I think, is really important for us as well going into this season.
Coach Ed, you talked awesome about off the court. Maybe talk about your message coming in this season, starting practice tomorrow, of your on the court message to your guys.
Sure. It's been a build up for us. We changed a lot of how we break our huddle, like we break down. I just got our kids saying, basically, man, we all we got. You know, our captain will say, "We all we got," and the kids say, "We all we need." And then he'll say, "So says one, so says all." So this year, we really talking about family. You know, I don't want people to just say family. I want you to show it by your leadership. You know, from the best player to the kid that's not as good. I want everybody speaking and talking as one unit. And I've been also telling them, man, play like it's your last game. You know, play like this your last game and care about it. You know, when you're in school, act like you're not gonna be able to read. Like act like you can't read no more. Read as hard as you can. You want to be aggressive with everything you do because. And I told him, I said, man, basketball is life. If your life jacked up, your game gonna be messed up, and that's how we got to look at it. So that's what we've been talking about these last couple of weeks. You know, just being a family, but really mean it. Care about your teammate. Care about our craft. Care about your craft. Care about what we're doing. You know, we always talk about a brand. I always tell them about, hey guys, you know, when you go buy that Nike shirt, you expect for it to be a certain way. So when you put that Clark uniform on, you put them Clark shoes on, you put this Clark stuff on, that's our brand. Make sure you represent the brand like it should be. So that's what we've been doing. Just like a lot of team focus. You know, if you see your teammate, man, in the hallway and he moving late to class, man, get him to class. You know, just trying to take care of each other. Be your brother's keeper. That sort of thing. That's what we're really talking about on the court with basketball.
Coach Winters?
So I think for us, I'm in year 5 at Harlem now. We took over Harlem. We were kind of the doormat of the conference. We were bad for a really long time, and now we're in a position where we're going to be picked in the top 3 just about every year, and try not to take that for granted, and just remembering what it's taken to get to that level. And I think right now for us, it's like our freshmen are coming in just thinking this is the way it is at Harlem, and our seniors know better because they were there when it was still pretty bad at the beginning of it. So just to not to take that for granted. We're talking a lot about just how connected we are, how many touches we're getting, whether that be high fives, fist bumps, whatever, eye contact, saying each other's name a lot in our communication, just kind of doing all those little things so that, it's easier to kind of carry through on the nights when things aren't going our way and being able to play through tough times. And I think the more connected and engaged you are with one another, the more it's easier to push through those tough times and feel like you're supported and all that stuff. And really, really talking to our guys a lot about projecting energy outward. And we just finished 5 weeks of preseason conditioning, and we kill our guys. We work them really hard, and that's the perfect time really to get them to stop thinking about themselves when they're hurting and they're tired, and start looking at the guy next to them and helping that guy pull through. And when you do that, it kind of takes some of the sting off of yourself when you're hurting a little bit, and just really being unselfish in terms of what you give and what you project outwards and the energy level that you bring to the table. I think if you get a team full of guys, not everybody's going to be on their A game in terms of energy and leadership every single day, but the more guys you can develop, the more you can cover for those days when your top 2 or 3 leaders are struggling, and you're going to have days like that.
Coach Reingruber?
Yeah, I mean, I echo a lot of the same stuff here, so I don't want to sound like a broken record, but like a lot of our guys in our been together since 4th feeder program. Some of them maybe played even on the 4th grade team as 3rd graders. So, our current seniors, this is their last hurrah together. It's there's about 7 or 8 of them, and I think 6 of them have been together since 4th grade. And obviously that chemistry shows on the court, but we also have a lot of depth. We had a junior class we're trying to mesh together that was 13-1 last year as sophomores, and I guarantee at our first team meeting after we have tryouts tomorrow, I'm going to ask who thinks there should be starters, and I'll find 8 or 9 hands go up, so like, it's a matter of getting those guys to accept their roles. And we've played some games in the summer and fall and whatever to help, start establishing those roles. But now that we're coming together officially this week, a lot of it's going to be, establishing those roles and guys, figuring out where they're going to be and what's going to take for them, like Matt said, to be a star in their role to help us be successful. And, a lot of it is just, we really harp the small things. I think Terry kind of mentioned that a little bit, or Mike, also like just making sure you're doing everything right in school, out of school, touching every line, just all the little things that add up that, I think we've established a really good culture in regards to that stuff, and just got to keep reiterating it and making sure that the little things, that they're doing the little things which add up to ultimately, hopefully add up to success. Matt had also mentioned, now that, he's done a great job building his program and getting it to a spot where, they're more likely going to be really good every single year. And now, instead of being that team that's looking up at others and trying to knock some people off, they're the ones that are, people are gunning for. And, in our league, we've been that team for a number of years. We've been everybody's Super Bowl in our league for a while now with the success that we've had, and a matter of just getting our guys to realize that they've got to be up every single night, ready to go, and we're going to get everybody's best shot. That just trying to build that in them as well. Last year was just such a weird year in so many aspects, as we know, that I feel like we almost lost a year of that culture stuff, in a sense, that we got to kind of, I wouldn't say reestablish, but get back to where it was.
So before we move on to our quick hitters, we just wanted to hit a little bit on recruiting, and kind of the landscape of recruiting with COVID. Now that COVID's kind of ending. Coach Head, we're going to start with you, obviously, but we kind of want to just hit on everything that has to do with recruiting and getting your guys recruited.
But I want to talk about the recruiting aspect of it, man. It's hard right now, just because the NCAA, it's like to me, they made like a free fall. You got the portal, and then you got when kids transfer, they're eligible to play right away. And then even with COVID, allowing all other kids, and I understand that, but they're allowing all the other kids to keep their extra year. So that last year was just a wasted year, but they get to keep that year. So what that did was hurt all of the seniors. That I have 7 seniors that I got to get in school, and I'm like, man, I've been working on it now, just like getting videos out, sending emails out, making calls, sending the schedule out, letting them know where we're gonna be, sending some AAU stuff out, on certain kids. So to me, I think it's gonna be difficult, but I know one thing is not gonna be hard. We're gonna get all our kids in school somewhere for free. That's been always my goal from day one, and that's what we're gonna do. I'm just worried about, man, like we got a 6'9" kid with a 4.2 GPA. I know if it's been regular times, I know he'd have been gone already. But college coaches have so many choices now, with the COVID year, the portal, prep school, and junior college is putting high school kids way in the back. But, with relationships and, I got some kids that can play. I'm not worried about getting them in. I know they'll get somewhere. It's a school for them. I always tell our kids, it's a school for you. We just got to find it. And once we find it, you make sure you take care of your business and stay there. So that's it.
Coach Winemiller, talk about recruiting with downstate players.
Yeah, I think just what Coach Hale was saying, the college coaches, I think unless you're talking about some high level elite guys, they're going to that portal because they're trying to keep their job. They're trying to make sure they continue to stay employed. So some of those guys are opting for that, the 21, 22-year-old grad transfer more than the high school guy. So it gets really tough. We had a kid here last year that was a really, really good player. He was a first-team All-Stater, and man, he was a 5.0 kid, and he had to end up walking on because just nothing really fit him because he kept hearing, we don't know who's coming back yet. So he pulled the trigger and took an academic route. And I think you're going to see a lot of kids that can do that, opt for that, just because of the uncertainty of what guys are really looking for.
Coach Monroe, I know you do a lot with trying to set up events throughout the state for recruiting. So maybe talk a little bit about just recruiting in general in Illinois, but then obviously for, your own guys?
Yeah, I think with COVID, like these guys I mentioned, with COVID, the transfer portal, and another number of other issues, I think recruiting has been especially difficult on the classes of 2021 and 2022. Hopefully, as things kind of get back to normal, that will cycle through. But kind of like what Coach Reingruber said, a number of guys that we've talked to who are in positions where maybe they don't have great job security are looking to have older players transfer in. And so that certainly hurts in many different ways, those kids that are in high school. The class of 2022 has to deal with that transfer portal, and they have to deal with the fact that their entire lead up to their junior year and within their junior year, they didn't get a chance to play in front of college coaches. Thankfully, we've added some recruiting events across the country in recent years. Our June Scholastic events that the NCAA sponsors, where high school teams and players can participate in the month of June, I think helps a lot. If you look at the events, like Mike Reingruber runs one every single year, there's tons of kids that end up leaving those tournaments and those shootouts with college offers that maybe wouldn't have had the opportunity to get them before. I know up in Coach Winters' area, there's a big one in Rockford, for example. What's nice in Illinois is we have more events that serve more kids than any other state. Most states usually have one or two events at most. If not, they're partnering with other states. And a lot of those June Scholastic events that they're hosting are simply showcase games or all-star games where only the top 50 or so players from that region get to go. We ended up serving about 2,000 players last year in our June Scholastic events on the boys' side, and we're hoping to continue to grow that number in the future. I think as a coach, oftentimes, you look back in the last 20 years and the recruiting landscape has changed. Recruiting used to be done simply through contact with families and contact with high school coaches. And then obviously, as AAU has grown in influence and in importance, that kind of shifted over the years. And I think sometimes high school coaches take a little bit of a back seat when it comes to recruiting. I know every guy on this panel personally, and I know that's not the case with anybody here. But I do think as a high school coach, it's really important to try to take an active role in helping each kid. So like Coach had mentioned, sending out your schedule. Hey, this is where we're playing in June for the live period. Here's our open gym schedule. This is our game schedule. Sending information on kids' stats, grades, highlight videos, and stuff like that. I think all that's really, really important. But I think one of the biggest keys is making sure you try to develop relationships year round. If the only time I ever call a college coach is when I need something, that relationship's not going to be genuine and it's not going to be built on trust. So making sure that you stay in contact with these college coaches as much as possible, go to their practices, say hi to them in the circuit, check in with them, wish them luck on big games. I think all of that's important. The second thing I think is really important is, working together with AAU coaches to help your kids. At the end of the day, it's not about us as coaches, it's about our players. I go back 20 years ago when I first started coaching, and Coach Head and I battled in some AAU games and stuff like that, and eventually, obviously, moved on to high school. But I think, making sure you develop relationships with those travel coaches as a head high school coach is really important. Attend your kids' games, check in with those coaches, develop relationships with them, and work together in partnership to try to give your kids the best amount of exposure possible. And then the third area, it's always important to make sure you collaborate with their families, see what they want, what they're looking for, checking in constantly, and always serving them to the best of your ability.
So I think Coach Monroe kind of led into, but Coach Winters, talk about just the recruitment of the players out west in the Rockford area.
Well, I think first of all, you guys touched on a lot of the changes in the landscape over the last 20 years. 15 years ago, I'm at Rockford Jefferson. I needed a different cell phone just for recruiting stuff. It was just blowing up nonstop, and we had good players. We didn't have great players. There were people with better players than us, but I think our role as coaches, as high school coaches, has changed, and you really have to work to be active in it. Because back in the day, like Matt said, it would go through us, and now it's just every once in a while we'll get a courtesy call just to make sure our kids are everything that they think they are. So if you're not actively participating, like setting out schedules, all these things these guys have said, you'll get easily bypassed in the process. So I think for young coaches coming in, they have to really understand. They maybe don't know the whole evolution of that, but they really got to understand they've got to be super active in order to keep their kids in the loop. Otherwise, I think the other thing is we've talked about it just with the way the game has grown. Everybody plays now. So there's so many kids that are sending out their highlight films and everything else. And you know, like Coach Head said, there's a spot for every kid, but there's a lot of competition. So it's almost like, you know, searching for scholarships academically. Like you got to apply, you got to get out there, you got to be active. They're not going to come to you all the time unless you're that elite player. So you got to get out there and go find them. And really just make sure you know what the right fit is for your kids. I think Matt touched on, you know, what does a family need or want? Because not everything is going to be the right fit. And I think educating parents on the fact that there's some really good basketball, even at the NAIA level, where they can give money. You know, just I don't think everybody knows the difference between a JUCO Division I, a JUCO Division II, a JUCO Division III for starters. They don't always know the limitations in scholarship money at each level. So I think being able to educate your parents with that stuff, and you really kind of, as a high school coach, you kind of got to leave your ego at the door now, because you're not going to be super involved in the process unless you take like I said, you kind of take an active role. You're going to be bypassing that process. But, you know, as Matt says, Coach Head said, it's about the kids. It's not about us. So I think our role now is more educating the parents and kind of connecting them to people in the process, where maybe, you know, every kid's in a different situation in terms of their travel team too. So just knowing, you know, which of my kids is going to be in good hands in terms of being promoted to schools and which kids are going to need more help.
Well, and I think the piece is important, but I think Coach Reingruber, I think you can speak to still the importance of, you know, we have high school events. You host probably the biggest one in the summertime. And so kind of just take us through, you know, recruitment from your aspect.
Yeah, I mean, we've been lucky to host an event. We've got a great facility to do so. And, you know, given, you know, as Matt said, I mean, over the years, I mean, if we're dating back 18, 19 years, I mean, just thousands of kids, the opportunity, and been lucky the last couple of years of the live event to do so. You know, one of the things that I find, and I mean, I think everybody has given some really great advice on the whole process. You know, in addition to what, you know, Matt and Terry and Mike and everybody has said, I feel like I really have to teach my kids how to communicate with coaches. Like they, you know, when it comes to how to respond to this, you know, certain ways, the text messages, or you know, making sure they're calling back when a coach, you know, leaves a voicemail. I mean, half the time these kids don't even check their voicemail. You know, it's you know, I mean, little things like that just, you know, I didn't think I'd ever have to coach kids up on how to communicate. And we've got great kids. We've got some, you know, really good players, great kids, but they struggle with communication sometimes when it comes to following up with some of that stuff. And, you know, we've got small school kids. We're not pumping out, you know, Division I players and things like that year in and year out. And, you know, what I really got to make sure that our kid realize is a lot of the smaller, the D3s and the NAIAs and schools like that, they don't have huge recruiting budgets. And if you don't show them interest back, they're not going to show interest in you. They're going to move on because they've got a lot of kids that they got to look at. And I really find that sometimes that's a struggle with our kids, is just the communication aspect that we've been working through.
I think that's a generational gap. They all don't know how to talk no more. You got to teach them everything. There's cell phones and social media.
I was going to say, we've all gotten an email from one of our players, and you're like, huh? What? What happened there?
You mean,
we've all gotten that one.
Wait a minute. You guys are trying to tell me that they don't understand how to communicate through Snapchat the same as like in real life? No way.
Oh,
come on now.
Some of them even write like they Snapchatting on Facebook.
Yep.
With Sam, and you got to change all of that.
All right, so we want to finish with some fun quick hitters. Most of them have to do with basketball, but in a fun way. We want to hit on just the Bulls, the resurgence of the Bulls. I actually want to turn my TV on now and watch the Bulls, which I couldn't say that I wanted to do in the past. So kind of just take us through, if you guys want, a couple 1-2 sentences on hopefully the Bulls coming back. Let's start with Reingruber on this one.
You just started with the wrong guy. I haven't watched 1 second of a Bulls game yet
Oh,
this year.
come on now.
I'm not a huge NBA fan, man. I love college basketball.
I don't like the NBA, man. I hate it.
I'm not a big NBA guy, so like I haven't watched a second of a Bulls game. I am taking my 7-year-old son though on December 19th against the Lakers. So I will see a game then, but I don't know if I'll watch any between now and then, to be honest with you.
We could have just had Coach Tucker just take 15 minutes and go through everything that had to do with the Bulls.
It'd be a lot longer than 15 minutes if it's about the Bulls.
Yeah, that's true.
Good talk, yeah.
I seen a little bit. I know they better find a big, and they're not going to be able to play the way they're playing all this time. They pressing them, they running a lot. They're not going to be able to do that for 82. They're going to run out of gas.
Winters, Monroe, you got anything on the Bulls for us?
You know, I grew up in the Jordan Pippen era, so I quit watching about 97, 98 and haven't watched. D-Rose got me back a little bit for a while. I'm intrigued this year. I mean, it's nice to be able to have it as an option, but I'm just a huge college fan. I'll watch any college game, even, you know, low D1 stuff, that whatever they throw on the TV that night, I'll pick that first usually.
Yeah, I'm
Coach
like
Winemiller.
these guys.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I'm like these guys. My favorite basketball to watch is high school basketball. I could watch film on Huddle for hours upon hours, but I will say I'm a little bit an outlier here. I do really enjoy the NBA and college basketball, but I don't watch it so much from a fan's perspective. I try to pick up ideas and stuff for our team. But I will say, if the Bulls are good, I think that's good for basketball in Chicago in general, because it piques a child's interest more. Maybe they pursue basketball more frequently than maybe other sports. And I think that helps grow the game. I had my yearly physical the other day, and the first thing my doctor talked about was the Bulls. So you know that basketball's in the dialogue, you know, more frequently than it was before, since the Bulls are better. So hopefully that piques interest. Like, we all grew up in the Jordan era, and I would guess to say that a lot of that had a big influence on why we got into playing and why we got into coaching. And hopefully that excites the next generation in regards to playing basketball.
So, Coach Winemiller, I'll tweak a little bit. I'm sure you obviously, I don't know if the Bulls are big, but like, you know, obviously it's a different dynamic with pro sports teams down there. So maybe your kids down there, what are some of the teams down there that they're looking at? Are they looking at Bulls? Are they looking at somebody else? You know, because, you know, there's St. Louis, there's all that kind of stuff down there.
Yeah, well, you know, McLeansboro, I grew up in McLeansboro. It's only 20 minutes away, the home of Jerry Sloan. So there's a lot of Jazz fans here, you know, believe it or not. And Doug Collins with the Bulls, you know, he's a Benton guy. So that's a connection to the Bulls. But honestly, the NBA is more player driven here. Like, my guys, they'll talk about LeBron and Steph and those guys more than a team, just because we're so geographically. I mean, honestly, if I probably pulled my guys, their favorite player is probably Ja Morant, because we're only 3 hours from Memphis. So they love Ja.
Well, before we move on, shout out to Chicago Sky on winning their championship.
So, all right, let's transition here. Coach Winemiller, we'll start with you. Any pregame superstitions, food, something you got to do? What is pregame superstitions?
Boy, I don't know. I guess we're all weird. I mean, everybody's got their thing.
You're right about that.
Everybody's got their thing that they do. I've done this ever since I started coaching, even when I was at Forston and Mike was at Oregon 20 years ago. I mean, that's how long that's been. I always take the pen out of my pocket and hand it to my assistant. I don't know why I started doing that. He thinks it's so I don't throw it, but that's just kind of our thing before the game, right before the tip.
He's probably right.
He's probably right. I'll take the Expo out of my pocket and hand it to him. So, you know, just, I'm like everybody else. We never change our routine. And it starts when at the end of the halftime of the JV game, you go in and write stuff on the board and just those kind of things, but nothing too crazy, I don't guess.
Well, the biggest question is how many Expos you have, because everybody's been there where you get the Expo and it don't work. And you're like, hey, who's got the other Expo?
Right. Or when you put 25 in your bag and your assistants continually take them, and then you can't find one, and you want to kill those guys when that happens, when, you know, but yeah, or it's dried up. Absolutely. Yep. So yeah, for sure.
Coach Head, what are your pregame superstitions?
Home game, I always have to sweep the floor before warm up. So, we get out of school at 3:08, and at 3:10, I'm like actually sweeping the dust mop on the floor, making sure, and I gotta have to make sure everything's set. That's just my thing. We had a janitor come in and do it, but I gotta sweep the floor just because that's what I've been doing since day one when I was coaching. I'm always gotta have a piece of candy before the game starts. You always notice I always got a little snack right by because I'd be having might be a nervous wreck. So that candy, little piece of candy helped me calm down a little bit. And every game, man, we always give me some type of, if my wife don't, whatever she don't cook for dinner, everything, I always get like a little sandwich or something. Because man, I don't know if you ever been coaching the game, man. It's a real good game. All of a sudden you get hungry, you're like, dang, I'm hungry than mug. Why are you looking around? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I try to make sure I have some type of meal before that game, but I gotta the biggest thing is sweeping my floor on home games, Away games, I really like using my pods now. So if using the iPods and I gotta listen to some old school house music or Jay-Z, that's my listening music to get me pumped up for the game. I'm a house head, so that or some Jay-Z, that's it.
All right, Coach Reingruber, what do you got?
Nothing major, kind of like Ron a little bit here where, my biggest thing is probably we do some, especially when we're at home, we do a lot of our pregame stuff during before the sophomore game and right, the beginning of the first quarter. I usually try to get in there for the second quarter. And then once they come up from half, I usually head down to the locker room in the third quarter. It's kind of just me just gathering my thoughts and reviewing any last second things I need to review and then go talk to the team at the beginning of the fourth quarter. But it's usually that just third quarter where I find myself and just kind of locking in, zoning in a little bit, but nothing major other than that.
Coach Monroe?
For those of you that know me, probably would not be surprised that I got a few things that I do that kind of, get in the routine of a game, but kind of what Coach Head said, he mentioned about, doing these things to not get nervous before a game. And I think, there's a difference between having the butterflies and being like worried about losing. Going into a game, I'm happy that I feel butterflies because it means I still care and that I'm still invested. If I ever go into a game and I don't have some butterflies, then I know that maybe it's time to hang up my whistle. So I think that's a good thing. As long as, it doesn't hurt your confidence. You could have confidence and have butterflies at the same time. But some of the things that I do, like Mike, at the end of halftime, I always go in the back, myself and one of my assistants, and we write down everything on the board and we get everything scripted out that we're going to talk about in our pregame. And I usually go watch the sophomores. But, once we get into our pregame talk, we're very organized in terms of who says what during the games. We always end with one of our assistants, Coach Dudzik, giving the final words to kind of pump up the team. We get out there on the floor, but once we get on the floor, I cannot have anything in my pockets except for a marker in my right pocket. I have to clear all my pockets, get everything out, put my cell phone away. I have to write my initial on my water bottle cap so I don't share my water bottle with anybody. And then once the game starts, every single time I say, let's go. And I have to slap everybody's hand on the bench. And I don't feel like I could start coaching unless I do all those things. So, we all got our routines, but it's part of competition, right?
Coach Winters?
Yeah, nothing really major. I don't, I'm hungry during the game, Coach Ed, because I don't eat on game day a whole lot, man. I'll eat breakfast, but even after 500 some games, I still don't eat a lot. It's those butterflies that Coach Monroe talked about a little bit. I fear losing more than anything. So I in my mind, I've figured out like 300 different ways we're going to lose that game that night. You know what I mean? I've gone through all that stuff and I just don't eat that day. And then afterwards I eat everything in sight after the game. And, I don't know. I'm quirky with the scorebook. Like I'll use the same pen for as long as we're on a winning streak. It's got to be the same pen, same color ink, all that stuff. And as soon as we lose, I throw it out and go get a different pen.
Like it.
I don't know. That's kind of weird. That's just something I always do.
I never touch the scorebook. I never touch the scorebook because I'm like, that's bad luck. If nobody's around,
okay,
I never touch the scorebook, man. That's like bad luck for me. I never do that.
See,
Coach,
actually, I gotta have it a certain.
That is one thing I do as well with the pen. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's weird or not, but that's just something I always do. I got to touch every kid before the game, fist bumps and everybody. I think they get sick of it, but that's just kind of just being connected, and it gives me a chance to kind of look them in the eye right before the game and see where they're at and all that stuff. But for me, that 15, 20-minute warm-up is like the longest period in the history of the world. Like, I just sit there and I look up the clock and we seriously have 15 minutes to go still, and I can't sit still. So like I said, I've coached over 500 varsity games now, and that stuff doesn't change.
Yeah, time moves so slow when you're waiting for that game to start. I just sit there. I try to think and visualize what's going to happen in the game. But it doesn't always work out. It works out in my head. But
Right.
that time in between, you just want that ball to be thrown up and start playing.
Well, then you're in the locker room, you come back out and it's like, 54-54. And you're like, oh, is this game going to go to overtime? And I gotta, come on now, let's go.
All right, so I do want to pivot, but before I pivot, guys, just because I like to have a little fun, Todd, I want to know your pregame superstitions.
I got to stand in the same spot for anthem
Oh,
every time.
all right.
I'll fight for it. I like box feet blah. Like, no, you gotta go.
I'll be honest. My two is I can, and my assistants make fun of me, but I cannot talk about any future opponent. It literally has to be one game at a time. Like, you can't even mention the next opponent. Like, I won't even have the conversation. I'll like just stop it to the point where if we're playing somebody that's not very good and our next game is somebody very good, my assistants will literally start talking to me about the next opponent in this handshake line afterwards. He'll look at me and say, "Can I talk about him now?" So that's mine. I never want to look past anybody else. All right. Real fun question for you guys. We only have two left, but real fun question. Either your favorite gym that you've ever coached in that's not your own, so like one where you weren't the home coach, or the best opposing crowd you've ever played against. And we will start with this one with Coach Winters.
Oh man, a lot of really good ones because I'm old. But Quincy is an environment unlike any other. If you ever had the chance to play down there, the gym is cool. The gym is one of my favorite gyms is Ottawa. When I was in the NCIC at Rock Falls, Ottawa's got a really cool old gym. But Quincy, the environment, the fans, it's just a different level.
All right, Coach Winemiller.
I'm with Mike. We got a lot of cool gyms down here. Man, you can't beat just the history of going to Peeneyville and playing. That's a cool gym, and you're going to play a really good team when you get there. So I'm going to say Peeneyville, but there's some old gyms that have been closed in the last 10 years down here that are really cool old barns too. So they just don't build them like they used to anymore. I mean, they build those PE gyms now, and they're not true basketball gyms. So I really like the old gyms for sure.
All right, Coach Reingruber.
Yeah, I haven't got to coach at Argo as a head coach, but I think Argo is a great gym. When I was an assistant, we played in sectional there, and I've watched many great sectional games there over the years. I just think that's a really good gym. And again, not as a head coach, but as a lower level coach at St. Pat's, where Matt was before Ignatius is an awesome old gym, and Notre Dame up at Niles. I can go on and on with some of my favorite gyms around, but those are three of the best, I think.
Coach Head.
I got three real quick. One is being in Michelle Clark, we had to go play Westinghouse at Westinghouse. Man, that game was amazing. Walked in the gym, it's standing room only, that the new gym, not the old gym, the new gym. I'm gonna agree with you, Mike, Reinberger. Hey, going at Foreman High School, we had to play St. Pat's in the regional championship. Man, I love that game, man. The fans are like right in your ear yelling at you. And as a player, man, I played at Weber High School, man. I don't know the old Weber High School gym. Man, that's probably one of the best gyms I've ever seen. I love that gym. So those are my three best gyms.
Coach Monroe.
One of my favorite gyms to go to is at Waukegan High School. A kid I coached at AAU was real good. Played against Terry's teams. Jeremy Richmond played there. I used to go up there a lot to support him and watch their team play. And I'll never forget, how packed that place was in the sectionals. Jeremy actually hit a half-court shot to win the game one year. And that place was rocking. It was one of the loudest I've ever heard a crowd. And so I agree with Ron. Those older gyms are, in my mind, the coolest. St. Ignatius has a unique gym, and St. Pat's, where I was before, and a lot of the schools you guys mentioned. I think the gyms with a lot of character are the best ones to be in.
Just curious, Todd, you got a favorite?
So I actually like St. Ed's gym, just kind of old school gym. The fans are up on top of you. But when I was playing, it was Proviso East. That was always something. Proviso East was a something. When you went there, I kind of went there the 99 2000s when D Brown and Shannon Brown and Stephen Hart were there, and it was an intimidating place to go when you played as a player.
All right, I just want to throw out. I was going to say St. Ed, so Todd stole, man. I do as the coach at Res. I also do like Pats. I love any Pats Notre Dame game. For anybody that's never seen a Pats Notre Dame game, it's an atmosphere unlike any other. And to be honest, I have a weird shout out one, which is the upstairs gym at St. Ignatius. For anybody that's ever gone to like where the freshmen play upstairs, it literally overlooks the city. It is the coolest gym view. It's like windows on all sides. It's really cool. So
we've had Wilson basketball and the Chicago Bulls film commercials there the last 2 years because it's such a cool place.
All right, so last one we got for you, and this probably has to go with Coach Winemiller and throwing the marker, but like shirt and tie, suit, or casual guy when you're coaching. I know I couldn't wear a coat because I'd probably take it off and get mad and chuck it somewhere, but we'll start with Coach Winters.
Pre-COVID, I think I used to be old school shirt and tie. Pre-COVID, I was kind of evolved into just the shirt with no tie and the jacket, and now I'm wondering if we're ever going to go back to that. I'm watching NBA games and they're still wearing the quarter zips and all that stuff, and I don't know if they'll ever put the shirt and tie back on. So I haven't really decided this year what I'm going with. I think I'll probably dress up a little more than they do still. I think because I'm grateful to have the opportunity back again, that I'm going to go back to treating it the way I did before.
Coach Reingruber?
I was always a shirt and tie guy, never a sport coat, but I think definitely throughout the last year, definitely going to probably continue with the polos and the quarter zips and head in that direction for a chunk of the year, probably more than I ever did before, and maybe go more like Coach Winters said with maybe just the button down and nice khakis, something. I think I'm never going back to a tie though.
Coach Monroe?
I wear a tie all day at school, so that's kind of like my casual. So I'm a quarter zip and a tie guy. Everyone makes fun of me because I have one suit jacket. I wore it one time when I interviewed at St. Ignatius, so I don't go that route. I just go quarter zip, tie, and dress pants, and that's about it.
Coach Ed, what are you rocking this year?
I know this answer.
Oh, well, I got a secret, man. If we God bless us and we go downstate, I'm getting a yellow gold 2-piece.
Love it.
Sweet, but I normally wear. It depends upon, it depends upon outfit. Sometimes I might wear a jogging suit. Like we might wear. I try to be as comfortable as possible. I'm not wearing a tie. That's not going to ever happen. I wear polo, 3/4 zip. We are trying to get a little bit more fancy. My assistant coaches want to wear sweater vests. So we're thinking about sweater vests, but I'm not ever wearing a tie. And I'll never wear a suit jacket, man. I'll burn up in that thing, man. No.
Coach Winemiller?
I'm with Coach Reingruber. I don't know that we'll ever go back to suits and ties every game. Down here, there's a lot of suits and ties, but my wife just told me the other day, she said, we got $10,000 in suits and ties. We're not going to just leave them in the closet. So probably Friday, suits and tie. Any other night, we're probably going just a quarter zip.
Well, gentlemen, we can't thank you enough for jumping on with us. This was awesome. Talk to you guys, get a little preview ahead of you guys' season. We wish you guys best of luck, best of health for all your players, your families, you guys. And again, can't thank you guys enough for jumping on with us.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the After the Timeout podcast, hosted by Todd Zazadil and Jon Plicki. For more show content and upcoming episodes, follow us on Twitter at After the Timeout, or subscribe to our podcast for upcoming episodes. For show inquiries, you can email us at afterthetimeout@gmail.com. You can find all of our previous episodes on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts by searching After the Timeout. We appreciate you listening. Tune in next time for more coaching content in game, out of the game, and anything in between.